You can't hear me, really?
Now we can.
Now we can.
Oh, I was saying I have two new things in my life. A new mic, first time I bought a mic in 20 years. So I'm now in the new age. And the second thing is my new hat. Thank you so much, Regis. Can you hear me, really? Hat and a new mic. I'm all set. And even Happy says, I'm so happy.
Happy.
Love it, love it, love it. Yeah, my goodness. Well, hello, everybody. Welcome to our Tuesday evening session. And as Glorian had suggested last week, which I think is really great, we're going to take a look at a couple of sections of the course. One being the hero of the dream, the dreamer of the dream, and the hero of the dream, which I'm not sure we'll be able to get through them both. We can do some highlighting very definitely, because that's pretty much the essence of why is this doing this? Okay. That's pretty much the essence of what our condition is and why we're here and what goes on. I guess I should have got this up beforehand, but I was running around. Let's see. All right, so we're in text chapter 27, and there's the text chapter 27, section 7, the dreamer of the dream, and then section 8 is the hero of the dream. So just going to go ahead and put that on the screen. And yeah, this is really good. I know when my friend Gary Renard was given the direction to read the hero of the dream every day for a month, and so a lot of us did the same thing because, you know, they might as well follow along. But really pretty amazing the way that it shifts your belief about yourself or your understanding about yourself. I'm going to put on a cooler, and if it's too loud, let me know. Are you hearing a loud buzzing behind me?
No.
Okay, that's Zoom is so good for that. So the dreamer of the dream is long, as is the hero of the dream also. So if we get through the dreamer, we could just read the whole thing and then talk about it, rather than stopping and talking in between each one. I think that would probably be more likely to get us through our time. So
Look, Lynn, Lori's here. Lori Colburn's here. So she's going to sit with us when we.
well, good. Welcome, Lori.
Yeah.
I see her here.
Yeah, she was in Philly, so she came here for a night.
Oh, she's at your house.
She's at my house.
Look, and I don't see Lori.
Well, you will in a minute.
Yeah.
I'm just getting her dinner. I'm going to go. Should I shut this thing so you're not distracted? Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's so very distracting. No.
Len?
Yes.
Yeah, because you want to see. I told her you were here, Laura.
Oh,
so-
yeah.
Yeah, you can see her.
Are we saying hi, Lori? Love
Hi,
you.
Lori.
Are we saying read the whole thing without stopping? Really?
Well, we can read and stop. I mean, we won't get through it in an hour, but we can definitely read and stop. So
Uh-huh. Well, I mean, why is it that we have to get through it in an hour? We can continue like next week.
we could, absolutely. You are right about that.
Yeah.
Is next week Glorian's week?
It's the fourth week.
Yeah, so we can do that. We can do Glorian next week, and then we can continue on with this later. Too. Yeah, absolutely.
Because this is a real focused section of the course. It's the whole course in a way.
Yeah, it really is. This is all about how who we think we are, what we think we are, and what our actual situation is.
Mm.
So yeah, it's
Taking responsibility.
Very-
Taking responsibility.
exactly. So So yeah, so who'd like to read paragraph 1 of the Dreamer of the Dream?
I will.
Thank you.
I never volunteered to go first ever. Okay. The Dreamer of the Dream. Wow. And this is from Course in Miracles, chapter 27, section 7. Suffering is an emphasis upon all that the world has done to injure you. Here is the world's demented version. I love his choice of words. Here's the world's demented version of salvation clearly shown. Like to a dream of punishment in which the dreamer is unconscious of what brought on the attack against himself. He sees himself attacked unjustly and by something not himself. He is the victim of this something else, quote unquote, a thing outside of himself for which he has no reason to be held responsible. Yeah, I exist, but I'm not responsible. He must be innocent because he knows not what he does, but what is done to him. Yeah. Yet in his own attack upon himself, apparent still, for it is he who bears the suffering, and he cannot escape because its source is seen outside himself. So we come here to be victims. I mean, when he says in the Course, beware of the temptation to perceive yourself as unfairly treated, that, even though it's not in this paragraph, that is what this paragraph is saying. We do perceive ourselves unfairly treated, and we want to see ourselves unfairly treated because that makes me innocent. And someone else is guilty, but the guilt is coming from me. Projection makes perception. And I won't say too much more. I'll just turn it back on over to you, love.
Yeah, very, very clear. Does anybody have any comments or thoughts about this?
Just that, as Dove said, it makes us innocent, and likewise, it makes us right in our wrongness. We want to be right about being wrong. That all of this is going on. So.
Yeah, and who do we think's attacking us? I mean, that we live our lives believing that we're attacked from the minute we come out the womb, and all of a sudden we're being smacked on the butt and put into whole big bright lights and cold, terrible thing. People are wiping us, and all kinds of things are happening to us right away. We're like, what happened to my cozy home? And the rest of our lives, we're still looking for that. Karen, please go ahead.
Yeah, when Dove said, I exist, it just reminded me of Ken Wapnick's twofold. He says it's the ego's twofold purpose. I exist, and it's not my fault. So that's exactly what everyone's saying, and that's what this paragraph is saying. So it just reminds me of what Ken Wapnick says about that. And for me, it's just looking at when I do think that I am a victim, or feel that I'm a victim, or believe someone else may be a victim. It's just something to look at, because that's just, keeping the separation going and believing in exclusion, which is, all ego. So it's just something to look at. Thanks.
Yeah, thank you, Karen. Anybody else have anything? Rafi, please go ahead.
Well, it just reminded me of as soon as you've done that, you've given up responsibility. And once you give up responsibility for what goes on in what you call your life, you surrender your power. I mean, we're infinite beings with infinite power. And all of a sudden it's like, I'm a victim, and this thing has nothing to do with me, and I'm a victim. I mean, if that is typical ego, I have no what. And ego lives on, perpetuating the suffering. That's a great way to do it.
Yeah. I want to kind of second what Rafi said, because that the first line of the last unanswered question, one of my favorites, chapter 21, section 7, says, do you not see that all of your suffering, all your misery, all your pain, all your hurt comes from your strange belief that you are powerless? So exactly what Rafi says is true. We give up our power so that we can look and appear
Right,
innocent,
sorry, I got
and
kicked out.
somebody else is going to be punished.
Oh, yeah.
Was I heard or what? Yeah. Okay. All right. I don't know what Lynn said. What is it Lynn said?
She's having
I got
technical
kicked out.
difficulties.
Oh, okay, kicked out.
She's
It
having
wasn't
technical
Lynn.
difficulties.
Sharon had her mic on and she was talking to somebody else. That's what you heard.
Oh, okay, okay. All right.
I'm sorry, I was distracting you guys. I just want to tell Regis that we were talking about you, Lori and I. What a kind of teacher you are. It's just amazing.
Oh,
We think
God.
everyone is. Okay, all right.
All right, yeah, I'm just trying to get our reading back up, so. Yeah, no. I just had to switch computers. There we go. All right, so I don't know what I missed or what anybody said, but I wasn't gone that long, I don't think. Does anybody else have any comments about it's not my fault? All right, well, then let's look at paragraph 2. Who would like to read paragraph 2?
I'll try it. All right. The dreaming of the world takes many forms because the body seeks in many ways to prove it is autonomous and real. It puts things on itself that it has bought with little metal discs or paper strips the world proclaims as valuable and real. It works to get them doing senseless things and tosses them. I guess I'm just gonna quit my job after this. It works to get them doing senseless things and tosses them away for senseless things it does not need and does not even want. It hires other bodies that they may protect it and collect more senseless things that it can call its own. It looks about for special bodies that can share its dreams. Sometimes it dreams it is a conqueror of bodies weaker than itself, but in some phases of the dream, it is the slave of bodies that would hurt and torture it.
Yeah, so do you disagree or agree with this? What do you think?
Oh, I agree. I love when the course speaks from this position. To me, it's nothing to say. It's just when you just step back and objectively look at your life, or if you just are able to just uh, be the observer, it just encompasses the whole thing. It's just perfect. What can you say? But yes.
Yeah, I mean, he really describes it in a way that I'm thinking probably back in the 60s. I'm thinking that when Helen was getting this, receiving this, I think this was really a radical thought to her, is this whole idea of uh, just the falsity of the world and all the things that are done in the name of the body in the world. Glorian, please go ahead.
Yeah, the first sentence, the dreaming of the world takes many forms because the body seeks in many ways to prove it is autonomous and real. Basically, is just, and this entire paragraph is just talking about the varied ways of specialness the comparisons, all the different things that the body does, the ego does, to keep itself separate. And it's like a way we hide from what we truly are.
I was thinking about this was coming to me so clear a couple of days ago, Glorian, about just the various ways of specialness. And it's so interesting how we think one is different than the other. That it's like, and I was thinking like, I go to work, I try to accumulate money, and somebody else is in a monastery, but they just a body up on the mountain. And I'm just a body going to work and accumulate money. We can say, well, this is different, or it's more special, or more spiritual, but it's just a body doing what it
Same.
thinks it needs to do to be happy. It's like,
Different manifestations of the same thing.
yep. Karen.
Yeah, it all kind of goes into the idea that I need to be protected. I need to be taken care of. I'm weak and I'm small, and I really need a lot of help to keep me strong. But man, this whole talk about slavery and being hurt and tortured and all these things, I mean, we do this every day and don't think a dang thing about it. Although we come home from work and we say, man, I'm working like a slave. How my husband treats me is like I'm, nothing. How my, children do this, that, we have all kind of beliefs about what's happening to us, and never once thinking, oh, I'm doing this to myself. And it's a dream. Karen, please go ahead.
Yeah, thanks everyone. Just I agree and love what everyone shared. And just to piggyback off of that, for me, the part where it says collect more senseless things, and then it looks for special bodies that can share its dream, because for me, that in my life, those types of things I put before God. I put things before God, those things, special relationships, thinking they would make me happy, thinking things outside of me would make me happy, thinking things, a car, the house, the possessions and all that stuff really I thought would make me happy. And none of it makes me happy if I do not put God and the kingdom of heaven first. It's meaningless. It means nothing. It's remembering for me that, putting the kingdom of heaven first, and then all else will be given unto you. So I learned some hard lessons in my life through this, what he's talking about right here. And I'm grateful for those lessons, because I see the meaninglessness of all of it, because it means nothing. It means nothing. So the love of God and the love of, our fellow person, I'm not going to use the word person, our fellow, the miracles that we, that happen between each other, that's what matters to me today, not any of this other stuff. So I'm very grateful for that. Thanks.
I guess I'll just go. I was going to
I
talk.
was unmuted. I was telling you, go ahead.
Okay. No, we were talking the other day about that, and specialness and separateness and being the ego. And as I mentioned, that, it takes on many forms, and I'll just read them real quick. I did a deep dive into this once in Mark's class, and it really proved to be beneficial, because we don't recognize the different forms that specialness takes. Comparisons, idols, separateness, judgment, attack, defense, attachments, bargains, compromise, belief in the body, which is body identification, grievances, sin, and guilt. And I'm sure there's plenty more, but it's all the same thing. And we just have different ways and for coming about it to keep ourselves separate. And that's the constant war that we have against ourselves, which is the attack that we place on God to keep us separate from him.
Yeah, thank you for that, Gloria. And you know what? I just realized we started reading The Dreamer of the Dream, and and when I messed up, we went over to The Hero of the Dream. So I'm gonna.
We can't hear you, Lynn.
So what it is I can push the space bar to unmute myself temporarily, but I have to find the mic to unmute myself. I get that now. Sorry about that. So yeah, so we're actually reading The Dreamer of the Dream. So and we'll get to The Hero later. Let's look at paragraph 2 of The Dreamer of the Dream. Who would like to read paragraph 2 of The Dreamer of the Dream?
I'll take it.
Thank you, Rafi.
Now you are being shown you can escape. All that is needed is you look upon the problem as it is and not the way you have set it up. How could there be another way to solve a problem that is very simple, but has been obscured by heavy clouds of complication, which were made to keep the problem unresolved? Without the clouds, the problem will emerge in all its primitive simplicity. The choice will not be difficult because the problem is absurd when clearly seen. No one has difficulty making up his mind to let a simple problem be resolved if it is seen as hurting him, and also very easily removed.
All right. So any thoughts about that?
Well, the first thing that came to me is that every time an ego sets up a problem or a problem pops up, the first thing it does is go to the worst case scenario. I bang my toe. Oh my God, I'm going to die. You know, I mean, it's and so everything that comes up is way more. It makes it way more complicated, way more difficult. Just is impossible to deal with. Oh my God! And if you break it down to its simplest form, well, this is a feeling of fear or a feeling of this. Well, let me just get in touch with that and let that go and see where we are now. Once your mind gets, once you can discriminate like that, then all of the complications, all of the heaviness, all of this is the worst thing in the world that could ever possibly happen to me just dissolves.
Exactly. Yeah. I mean, you really have to look at it with an open mind and recognizing that what you think you see is probably not what's really there. And that's why he talks about these heavy clouds of complication, because those are all just the stories that we tell ourselves about what's happening that keep us from actually solving the problem. Karen, please go ahead.
Rafi, it's funny that you just said that. Before I got on, I hit my knee against this, underneath my table, there's this piece of wood that kind of protrudes a little bit in my hip. And you don't want to hear the first word that came out of my mouth, you know, like I still get that knee-jerk reaction, you know, when something like that happens, and it hurt. It hurt. And I made a big deal out of it for a minute. So it's funny. But I love this paragraph, and I love the reminder that now you are being shown you can escape. All that is needed is you look upon the problem as it is and not the way the ego has set it up. I say the ego because it's always the choice for the ego. It's always the choice to, as previously we talked about, being a victim, seeing something outside of me as upsetting me, because I'm never upset for the reason I think. I am not upset because I just hit my knee. I am upset because I chose the ego reaction to hitting my knee. You know, I am not upset for anything outside of my mind. It's always my choice for the ego, and I can always choose again and always choose differently. And that's what I love, love, love about this course, because before this course, I mean, AA was my primary spiritual practice and other things. But, you know, this really helped me to take responsibility and really look that it has my choice. It's my decision. It's never anything outside of me, and I'm so grateful for that. Thank you.
Thank
Thank
you,
you,
Karen. I just want to say thank you for saying that's the ego's reaction. The ego will always say something stupid, like my ego says WTF all the time. What the fuck? Okay.
Yeah, and I just have to ask, and if anybody can tell me, what was the thought that came between I hit my knee and the F word? Do we, was there a place where you could have made a choice?
This
And
shouldn't have happened. This shouldn't have happened. That's what comes in most of those things. This shouldn't be happening.
Yeah,
This
and
and then it just goes everywhere. Like, well, why did God let it happen? We don't say that, but our reaction is this shouldn't have happened. And we kind of figuratively looking around. Where were you? Why did you let this happen?
or if you have somebody else around the house, or you may think, me, it's like I blame somebody. I'm right away thinking, who put this there? Where, how did this happen? I honestly go into looking for somebody at fault, even if there's nobody else there.
well,
I'll look
Lynn, real quick, I just want to say, a quick thought I had was, why the hell did they make this table like this? Why did they have to put this piece of wood there?
exactly.
Exactly.
Yeah, somebody's to blame for this. Glorian, please go ahead.
Yeah, the first sentence here, now you are being shown you can escape. And the only escape that we have is the Holy Spirit, the higher self, that part of our mind that remembers God. That's how we escape, by moving from ego to true perception. Absolutely.
And that does take some work. It's not something that just, if there is an instant that you can think between the time you hit your knee and the time you blame or or react, that's really what we're going for here. You may not think that you have the capability of doing that. You may think that your mind is, it's instinct. This is just, what happens. I didn't think about this at all. But, Jesus tells us we are always aware of our circumstance, and we're never the victim of it. And that's why he says, now you're being shown you can't escape. That's what this course is for, is to show us that we can escape. We are not the victim of the table manufacturer or the or whatever, whoever we think is responsible for our problem. Did you have something else, Glorian?
Yeah, just quick. It really just is a matter of the mind training and the practice, because we as a group would start to do it. Living in New York, there's people, the driving is pretty bad, and people cutting you off. And we trained ourselves from reacting and being like, blank you, to bless you. So and we practiced that as a group. Like, we would be like, okay, we're going to do this week. And it's a matter of just, and I do that now. The kids laugh, and stuff. But the idea is to just train our minds to stop and have a different reaction. But I'm not going to say I don't have the knee jerk if I hit my knee, Karen, because I sure would too. So, but we practice. We just try to train our minds to make that space. Thanks.
Thank you. Yeah. And yeah, I've done the same thing. And I'm sure that others of us have done the similar, type of exercises, trying to gain some control of our own thinking and our own mind, and not to be the knee jerk. It's funny, we're talking about Karen hitting her knee and we keep saying knee jerk, but
Knee jerk reaction.
knee jerk reaction. You're a jerk for making this table like this and you hurt my knee. Does anybody else have anything? I mean, really, he's telling us we have a choice. And so there's a time of choice between the time of the knee hitting the table and me reacting with anger, or me reacting at thinking I'm a victim. There is a choice, and that's where we want to find that place where is that in my mind? Because it's there. Because I mean, that's he says to us several places, but in the section 5 that I think I hear Karen quoting sometimes, the decision for God. And it says, you must have decided this because you made this decision yourself, and you can decide otherwise. And this is what we have to learn. We have a mind, I have a mind, I have a kingdom, I must rule. And that's what this course is all about, is me learning to rule the kingdom, rather than having the kingdom rule me. Rafi, please go ahead.
Yeah, I had an incident happen today that speaks to this perfectly. I get a telephone call, and it's my grandson's voice saying that he's just been in a terrible automobile accident that wasn't his fault, and he's been arrested and he's been taken to jail, and he needs help right away. And here's the lawyer's telephone number. Call him right away. I said, why don't you just call your dad? No, call my dad. Don't call my dad. Don't call my dad. Oh my God. So I hang up and I call a lawyer, and the lawyer gives me this whole big spiel about how it's gonna, he's been arrested and been charged with stuff, and it's gonna cost, he can be bailed out for $95,000, but you need to pay, you can pay $9,500 and get him out. And he's going on about all of this stuff. And my first reaction is, oh my God, I got to do something. Then I stepped back and I went, wait a minute. I said, let me call you back. Okay. So I hung up the phone. It rings, and it's the parents of my grandson. And I said, excuse me, but did you get a call? I just got a call that Khalil was in an accident and he's in jail. And the father said, what? And he hangs up. He said, hang up the phone. He calls up his son. His son is sitting in his apartment watching TV. And he calls me back. He said, it's a scam. And somebody said, well, they're doing this to seniors a lot lately. I said, yeah, I had a feeling that was said, but the initial reaction was, I got to do something. The second was, hang on a second, let me step back and take another look at this. And when I did, the first thing that came up was how awful it must be to be those people, how they must be going through hell, all the preparation that they go through to try to cheat people. And don't they see the people that they're hurting themselves is themselves? I mean, you can't, whatever you put out, you're going to get back. And these people are setting themselves up for such terrible stuff. They have no moral structure whatsoever. And everything they do is about hurting other people. You can only hurt yourself. And so I didn't react to it. And all, now I started to feel tremendous compassion for them. And the whole, and you know, in 10 minutes, the whole thing was resolved and it all went away simply because I did not react to it. And we always have that choice. Bang the knee, oh, damn it. Or, oh, well, it's just a knee. And keep on moving, you know.
Yeah, that's quite interesting, because yes, there is, people are scamming, and they can use AI, which is, I mean, it sounded like your grandson. They probably talked to your grandson, skimmed his voice, and I mean, replicated it through this program.
That's exactly what they did. It was an AI thing.
Yeah. So, I mean, and yes, I know that they're doing that to a lot of people, but and you have to understand that they know that it's wrong. They know that it's wrong. So the fact is, they're already punishing themselves. They're already feeling guilty because of it. But and a lot of people say, no, they don't think they're wrong. Yes, they do. Everybody knows right from wrong. You're taught it from the day one with the world and your family. They know they're doing the wrong thing, and they do feel guilty about it, and they are going to punish themselves, and they're probably going to end up, you know, God only knows, unless they can resolve that guilt. But I mean, it's not just those kind of scammers. You know, I mean, that's marketing. That's what goes on with big business. That's what goes on with You know, I hate to throw in pharmaceutical companies because there's a lot of good people that work for pharmaceutical companies, but there's a whole idea of, you know, this is bad, this is scary, you need this drug, you're going to get sick, you're going to die. And they know they're scamming people. And even if it is a good drug, and even if it is really helpful, you know, they don't have to try to trick you or try to guilt you or try to bring you into fear so that you will buy their product. And most of the products that we see these days are based on fear or I mean, there's just so much in the world. So this is a big thing here, that we have to come to some kind of grips with, like he says, it's been obscured by heavy clouds of complication, which were made to keep the problem unresolved. And that's happening with everything. Happens with the government, happens with sunscreen. You know, I mean, it doesn't matter what it is. Something, you know, if you don't get it, you're going to suffer. And all these clouds of complication that make it seem like we're in so much danger in the world. And of course, we're a Course in Miracles students, and we know we are in danger nowhere in this world. And yet, you know, we're going to act and react on that knee-jerk reaction. Karen, please go ahead.
Yeah, thank you, Rafi. You did great on that. That was awesome that you were able to pick that up, you know. And thank you, Lynn. And what's coming to me now is that the only problem is what the Course always tells us, just one problem. It's the belief in separation, you know, because when he says in sentence 6, no one has difficulty making up his mind to let a simple problem be resolved if it is seen as hurting him and also very easily removed. And that comes in where Glorian said, we ask the Holy Spirit. So it's always that one problem that we think we're separate from God. And when we think we're separate from God, we think without God. And we think all these thoughts of separation, of scamming someone, of hurting someone, of, you know, whatever it is, it doesn't matter. And then the problem has already been solved because the separation never happened. Lessons 79 and 80 come into my mind, you know, so it's like, it always comes back to that, you know, throughout this whole entire course, it keeps reminding us that there's only one problem. Thanks.
Yeah, thank you for that. Yes. Only one problem and only one solution. And yet we're looking everywhere for it. And so, you know, now we're being shown that we can escape and, you know, get out of that dream. So once we begin to see through those clouds, then we can recognize that there is an answer to the problem. But as long as we're fooled by the clouds we think we're seeing, we're going to just continue to try to fix the problem rather than recognize that the problem has already been solved. Glorian, please go ahead.
Yeah, just quickly to jump on that. One problem that we're separated from God, and one solution that we're not, and that's already is. So all we merely have to do is accept the miracle. The miracle just waits on our readiness and our welcome. So it's not like we have to solve it or do anything. It is already solved. We just have to welcome it in.
Yes, thank you. Thank you. Thank you, Glorian. And even, you know, even if your kid has been in an accident and is in jail and all that kind of stuff, the solution is not to run down and throw money at it. I mean, you may feel like, you know, oh, I got to do that if I got the cash. But, and people will do it because they think that that's a solution, but that's not a solution either. And, you know, I mean, having been in jail, you know, it's not that big of a deal. You can have some really miraculous experiences in a jail cell. So, you know, even if my kid was there, which my son spent 3 years in prison, and I think, you know, he would not agree, but it might have been one of the best things that ever happened to him because it shifted him in a lot of ways. And he grew up in a lot of ways that he was not likely to do doing the way he was doing. Anyway, enough of that. We won't go into the criminal history of the Johnson family, but all right. Anybody else? Gloria, did you want to say something else?
Just quickly, when we recognize God goes with me wherever I go, and there may be things we don't like, our ego be like, I don't want to do that. But ultimately, if we recognize that our holiness blesses the world and we take God with us wherever we go, if that's our focus, then we can look at the situation differently. If I'm in a waiting room and it's taking 2 hours, I can, get into the complaining about that, or I can recognize, maybe I could smile at the guy next to me, or, just be the love. So we can always change it up and look at it differently.
Absolutely. And I mean, that's the only challenge we have, is to see things differently, because otherwise, every place is hell. We're in hell everywhere. All right, let's go on to paragraph 3, unless somebody else has something to say about this. And who would like to read paragraph 3?
I'll read paragraph 3, because it looks like it's going to tell me why my friend Karen bumped her knee. Paragraph 3. The reasoning by which the world is made, on which it rests, by which it is maintained, is simply this: you are the cause of what I do. Your presence justifies my wrath, and you exist and think apart from me. While you attack, I must be innocent, and what I suffer from is your attack. No one who looks upon this reasoning exactly as it is could fail to see it does not follow, and it makes no sense. Yet it seems sensible because it looks as if the world were hurting you, or the table. And so it seems as if there is no need to go beyond the obvious in terms of cause. That's pretty rad when you think about it. Because I've had some experiences of doing some things and wonder, why did this happen? And usually in AA, we say, who started the ball rolling? And usually I started the ball rolling. I was thinking of Karen redesigning the table. And I was saying, all you have to do is be a little more careful. But, again, Gloria was talking about that consistent retraining of the mind, and getting to a place where these kind of choices becomes like breathing, which is like light years away from me. But a little bit here, a little bit there, I take a little more responsibility on what happens to me. And then you guys are telling me that most of what happens to me is my doing. And that really makes me put out the microscope and says, I need to take a look at that. But that's enough of me. I just wanted to laugh at my friend Karen.
Yeah, and thank you for recognizing that. That's the first step right there, is just to recognize, oh, you know what? Maybe I'm doing this to myself. Karen, please go ahead.
That was funny, Rico. You're too much. And I agree with everything you said. And I also, this reminds me of what Dove was sharing earlier about, I'm the innocent one. It's like he talks about the face of innocence, and you are the cause of what I do. And I, blaming the other person, blaming anyone outside of myself. And he tells us in self-concept versus self, he talks about the face of innocence. And he says that this lesson teaches this. He says, I am the thing you made of me. And as you look on me, you stand condemned because of what I am. On this conception of the self, the world smiles with approval, for it guarantees the pathway of the world are safely kept, and those who walk on them will not escape. So I am blaming you for what happened to me. You are the reason, and I went through that in my lifetime, in my most special relationships, and it's all it does is lead to hell. So I'm so grateful for being, have gone through those experiences, to see that, to learn that I am doing this to myself, and there is never anyone responsible for anything, even the table.
Well, yeah, and that's what's so beautiful about this course, is we really start looking at what is the actual cause. And this is a course in cause and effect. Once you recognize what the real cause is, then all these effects seem, they're like, well, how did that happen? Well, I'm doing it to myself. Rico, please
Yeah,
go ahead.
real quickly, I want to thank my friend Karen for sharing that. But what that makes me to do, based on what she shared and in that chapter, that it makes me look at things a little differently. Wayne Dyer used to always talk about, if you look at things differently, the things you look at change, however that went. But as I hang out with you guys, I start looking at things differently. The things I normally snap at, I first pause for a minute, and pause is my biggest help. And I take a look at it, and it's the way I'm either used to or conditioned of responding, or it's almost like automatic, instead of looking at, wait a minute, you started this ball rolling. Why are you going to snap out at them? So I think Lorianne said something about, consistent, the mind training and the practice of it. The mind training is good, but it does you no good if you don't put it into action and practice it. So I really appreciate the things you guys are sharing with me, because I'm one of those guys who takes it right now and I'm going to use it in a few minutes, because otherwise it just goes in one ear and goes out the other ear. So thank you.
Yeah, thank you for that, Rico. And yeah, the whole idea of, what he says, you are the cause of what I do. Your presence justifies my wrath, and you exist and think apart from me. While you attack, I must be innocent. And what I suffer from is your attack. And that's how we look at things. And I blame my mother, I blame my father, I blame the doctor, I blame the other kids at school, I blame the world, I blame politics, I blame all these things are the cause and the reason that I'm unhappy. And never once do I look and say, well, maybe I'm the one who gave you the ability to do that to me by making you somehow or the other responsible, I'm passing my responsibility over to, my mom or the school or, whatever. And so then that keeps me innocent. And that's what he's talking about. And Karen mentioned the face of innocence. That's really what we do. We put on this mask of innocence while we're blaming the world for our problems. And, once you recognize that really there are no problems, there's really nothing that needs to be solved, and that everything is just a part of the story that we're living. It really shifted me. Rico, please go ahead.
And real quick, I just wanted to say the other part of that is that it's such good news to find out that it's me and my perception or misperception, because that means I don't have to wait for you to change for me to get better. I can correct my stuff and then things will get different for me. So thank you for that.
Yeah, thank you for that too. And our good friend Cheryl Valentine, who passed a few years ago, she wrote a book and it was called "Oh My God, It's Me." and it really, it's a very good book. Oh my God, it's me. Because once you start realizing it's me, I'm the problem, it's me, Taylor Swift. That's it. Any other comments on this? Paragraph 3. Well, let's check out paragraph 4 then. And who would like to read paragraph 4? All right, I'll read paragraph 4. Okay. Paragraph 4 of The Dreamer of the Dream. There is indeed a need. Sound like Dr. Seuss. There is indeed a need. The world's escape from condemnation is a need which those within the world are joined in sharing. Yet they do not recognize their common need. For each one thinks that if he does his part, the condemnation of the world will rest on him. And it is this that he perceived to be his part in its deliverance. Vengeance must have a focus. And I love that. He also, in my favorite lesson, says perception has a focus. We're pointing on something. Vengeance must have a focus. Otherwise, is the avenger's knife in his own hand and pointed to himself? And he must see it in another's hand if he would be a victim of attack he did not choose. And thus he suffers from the wounds a knife he does not hold has made upon himself. So this is kind of convoluted sounding, but really, he's talking about what is the thing that we really need. The thing that we really need, of course, that harks back to me of my work with nonviolent communication, where we talk about that everyone has the same needs, real needs, and the needs that we're thinking here is that
I know about it. I have it on audio.
all right. The thing that sorry, you guys, I had to mute you. But the common need that we have many common needs. But he says for each one thinks that if he does his part, the condemnation of the world will rest on him. Is this that he perceives to be his part in its deliverance? So, we think somehow or the other that what we have to do is going to save the world. And not that, we're all thinking we're going to save the world by bringing about the deliverance from hell and the atonement. We think we're going to save the world by doing the things that we do on a basis of maybe we like it or we don't like it, like going to work every day, or if I don't go to work every day, I won't have any money and my world will collapse. And then I won't be able to buy anything from your store and your world will collapse. And I won't be able to pay my taxes and the government will collapse. I think so all those things become heavier and heavier and heavier on me to do my part. That's just one thing, working and making a living, raising a child and being a good parent. That's the responsibility that we take on. And if I'm not a good parent and I don't raise my children right, the world is going to fall apart. There's going to be chaos. If I don't make sure that the books that my children read in the library are fitting with my particular point of view, then my child is going to run amok and become transgender and is going to ruin the world. I think I have a responsibility, and that the whole world depends on me doing what it is that I think I need to do. But those are false needs. Those are needs that have really nothing to do with reality. Those are needs that have to do with maintaining my own status quo or my own point of view. The reality of it is, nothing that I do has any effect on the rest of the world or the world's safety or the world's security. The only thing that has effect on the world's security is our relationship with God. So when we have all these other ideas that I must do this and that you must do that, and we have all the shalls and shoulds and all that going on, we're really putting a lot of focus on things that, man, if this country doesn't take care of, our own people and not let all these immigrants come in, then, we're going to be destroyed. And I mean, we have these ideas, and all the ideas that we have about what should be happening or what is good or bad for the world or for our family or for ourselves, those are all made up stories. And as long as we believe that my safety depends on that, then I'm going to constantly be on guard and constantly be at war. And so, if I'm not protecting my domain, I'm going to be attacked. And of course, if I defend myself, I am attacked. There's so much in this course that talks about these ideas of, what we think could happen to us and what we think is happening to us. And the reality of it is these are all made up stories about our own perception. Glorian, please, and then Rafi right after.
Oh, thanks for that, Lynn. That was really beautiful. And when you were talking about that, it was coming to me about needing. And ultimately, once we recognize, seek not outside myself, but all my needs are met in Christ. And that's something that we really, as we do the mind training, we give up these ideas and recognize that Christ is the only need. And once we're aware of that, the projection ceases to be, and then there's no perceived needs. But that's not what I was going to say. I was going to say a sentence, and he must see it in another's hand. What was coming to me was, brother, at your hand I die. But when we recognize, brother, at your hand I live, that every attack and defense and projection and judgment, all of it offers us the opportunity to live at our brother's hand, because our brother's coming from our own mind. So we just look at that and move into the forgiveness of ourself and recognize that what we're seeing out there is a gift that's offered back to us, telling us what we think, and that it's really offering us life.
Thank you. Yes, thank you so much, Glorian. And really, that is all that's being offered to us. It's all God giving life to God, God giving love to God. That's it. Rafi, please go ahead, and then Karen.
On a smaller level, but still with a lot of negative impact, comes something, like, okay, here's a situation. It's a problem. It needs solution. So you start asking your mind, how am I going to solve this? The mind doesn't have an answer for it because it created the problem in the first place. The ego had created the problem in the first place. If it had an answer, you wouldn't even have to ask it. It would present itself right there. So you start trying to figure out how to solve it. And the mind says, as long as you don't have a solution, you better beat yourself up. So you get into this cycle of wanting to figure it out, and you can't. So the mind's telling you, or ego's telling you, beat yourself up. And now I got to solve it. Try even harder, and you try even harder, and you don't have a solution. Beat yourself, and you wind up caught in this vortex that takes you further and further and further and further into suffering. The solution never comes. You wind up beating the hell out of yourself, and in the end, hello. You're the one that's the victim. You victimized yourself, and you still got nowhere except to continue this constant suffering about the problem came from somebody else. Now I got to solve it. Now I can't. Now I got to be. And you're caught in it, and it's a terrible, terrible, hamster in a wheel kind of thing. It's just.
You're muted, Ralphie.
I finished saying what I had to say.
Oh,
That was great. And it reminds me of the quote from Albert Einstein: we can't solve problems by using the same kind of thinking we used when we created them. It's the same thing you just said, Rafi, the same logic, the ego's logic, if that's what you want to call it, false logic. But what's coming to me with this is it's circling right back to paragraph 2, when he says, there is a need indeed, there is indeed a need. The world's escape from condemnation is a need which those within the world are joined in sharing. So the need is, all that is needed is you look upon the problem as it is and not the way you set it up. Now you are being shown you can escape. You can escape the mind, the ego, by looking at the ego, with the gentleness of the Holy Spirit and seeing the unreality of it, seeing that, yes, I did make this up. Yes, this is not the truth, and asking the Holy Spirit to help me see it differently. That is the one problem, the one answer, and that's always the greatest need. The greatest need that we all have is to awaken from this dream of separation. And I am the dreamer of the dream. I have done this to myself, and I can choose differently. And that is the greatest power that we have. And I am grateful. Thank you.
Thank you for that too. Yeah, and I can make that decision every time, and that's what I have to practice, making the decision and not just allowing the idea that it's somebody else's fault or it's not my fault no matter what. That's the first step. Brooklyn, please go ahead.
Well, thank you all, mighty companions. I love this group. What comes to me is that there isn't a problem. The ego says there's a problem. And I know for myself that I step back and let him lead the way. And when I do that, it might look like I'm doing something wrong or I'm not doing something right. And then ego starts, like Rafi says, beating ourselves up. But there is no problem as long as we're connected to, as long as we're holding Holy Spirit's hand instead of the ego. Thank you.
Absolutely. And thank you so much for that, Brooklyn. And wow, this hour went really fast. I guess, it's time for us to end. But let's remember this. We're going to start back on paragraph 5 of this section. And I'm going to go ahead and stop the live stream real quick. And then I'm going to, for sometimes there's,